Hello fish fools, Jeff here. So here we're starting out looking at my most recent aquarium that I set up. This is my 9th tank. It's a 10-gallon aquarium and it's really cool to look at, I think. Just the variety of fish I have in here, different behaviors, and it just makes for one sweet community tank. And so what I'm going to try to do with this video is sort of do a tour of my tanks, not necessarily for the purpose of being a tour, but kind of talk about my version of my multi-tank syndrome, MTS. One of the things that I do with my MTS is I like to move fish around from tank to tank. That's one of the reasons why I have lots of tanks. Of course, one of them too is I set up tanks that serve as quarantine tanks and then they become regular tanks. This one being the 7th tank that did serve as a quarantine tank at one point. But I'm going to be, now that quarantine period is over, some of these fish are going to be moving. So I'm starting with this tank first because this is going to be, the fish in here are moving out and nothing's going to be moving in. So I'm going to kind of go, this is going to be kind of haphazard going from different tanks with what the plan is. So I have this white platinum guppy here that's going to be coming out with this tequila sunrise guppy and that harlequin rose bearer. They will be moving to my 30-gallon planted live bear community tank. And I did get these pandagaras for the purpose of moving them in there, but I'm not entirely sure if and when I'm going to do that because I like them in here for now. But, when they do get bigger, I'll have to move them, but I might, while they're still relatively small, they might stay in here. Okay. And then just above this is my wild guppy tank. So the blue platy in here there she is right there, blue moon platy or blue Mickey Mouse platy. That's gonna move to my 30-gallon tank. And I did, with the pea puffers in here, there's 4 pea puffers. Here's one. Oh yeah, there's 4. I got them with plans of moving them to my, or at least one to my 30-gallon tank, but I think I'm just going to leave them in here for now. And then I'll show you the 30-gallon tank that they'll be moving to. And here's my 30-gallon planted live bear community tank. So those fish that I mentioned will be moving into this tank. But before doing that, I'm going to move some fish out of this tank. And actually, before I even continue any further right now, let me just mention that in case this video goes too long, it might end up being 2 parts, so if it gets cut short, I want to say that now. But yeah, so before any fish go in here, I want to move some fish out. So I'm going to move some platies from this tank to my mutt guppy tank and to my guppy and endler hybrid tank and my 5.5-gallon tank that I don't really have a name for. It is the one and only 5.5-gallon tank. So all those, at least a pair of guppies to each of those 3 tanks, and to go in my 5.5-gallon tank, I'm also going to bring at least 1 female guppy. And we're going to move on to one of those tanks. So here is my mutt guppy tank. And I want to move some platies in here. There is one male Mickey Mouse platy, gold Mickey Mouse platy. It's not showing itself at the moment, but I want to spread some platies in here. Plenty of guppies have been born in here, but I haven't had any platies born in here yet, so I want to add some platies here. And then platies to another tank that I'll show you next. So I'm going to put a pair of platies in here and a female guppy. I haven't showed this tank in a while, if you remember this. This is a tank that I first had, the first tank I had with camellianus worms, and I did multiple treatments, and those should be resolved. And it's been over a year ago now, but the 3 guppies that are in here now were born in this tank. They grew up from fry, but all their parents died, some of them due to the camellianus worms. But what has been raised in here were those, those 3 guppies. There's 2. No females, so I want to bring a female in here from my 30 gallon. And I actually didn't mention it, but that wild guppy tank, I'm going to bring a wild guppy in here, a pair of platies, and another female guppy that I'll show you next. So here's my little 2-gallon aquarium. I put some guppies in here just for the hell of it, and this is one that was born in here. The one that grew up healthy is a female. So with all this, the Java moss growth and just being more of like a portrait-sized tank instead of a landscape long way. It's less swimming room, but this one grew up pretty healthy and it's the female, so I'm going to move her into that 5.5 gallon tank. And then I'll show you what else is going on. Alright, so here's my Guppy and Endler hybrid tank. It's a 10 gallon. And I've had platies in here along the way too, and all I have left is this one female platy here, so I think I'm going to bring another pair of platies in here from the 30 gallon tank. That's the only movement that's going to happen with that. And I'll show you my next tank. Alright, so here's my 3.5 gallon Neocaridina shrimp tank. So nothing's going to be going in, but there will be shrimp coming out. So I've already moved some shrimp to my 30 gallon, and as crowded as that 30 gallon is with all those fish, the shrimp have been reproducing and doing very well in there. So I'm going to move some shrimp to 3 other destinations. So I'm going to move shrimp from here to here. So there's going to be lots of things moving into this tank. I'll have shrimp coming in, I'll have platies coming in, and I'll have guppies from female guppies from 3 different tanks coming in. And I'll show you where else the shrimp are going to go. And in here. So I'm going to add some Neocaridina shrimp to this tank. And this is actually the first tank that I did have Neocaridina shrimp in. Before I even had shrimp in my 3.5 gallon, I did at one point, even before all these guppies were in here, before any of these fish were in here, when it was after serving as a quarantine tank very early on, I did experiment and get 2 cherry shrimp, and then those just disappeared. So I never got them going in here until I got some later in my 3.5 gallon, and now starting with 8 in that 3.5 gallon, now there's like 100, so I'm going to start spreading them to other tanks. And there's one other place I'm going to be moving them to, and I'll show you. And then back to the 2-gallon tank. I'm going to move a lone single cherry shrimp in here. So I kind of want to do an experiment. And when that happens, I will tell you about it. But until then, I'm going to go back to my 30-gallon tank. And if you made it this far, 10 minutes into the video, I'm going to be telling you an announcement. Alright, so we're back to my 30-gallon tank, and my cat Creature is in front of it. So I mentioned all those things that I'm going to do with moving fish around, but one other thing I would like to do is move some fish in this tank to possibly your tank, because I want to give some fish away. Last weekend I made a video, and towards the end of that I mentioned that I wanted to try to give some fish away. So there's, a couple reasons for that. One is I want to experiment and attempt to ship some fish. So I've never done it before, but I'd like to try it to see how it goes. I mean, the possibility is I could try to send you fish and they could arrive dead, but hopefully it'll work out. So would you be interested in some of these fish? What I want to do is give away some platies, either the varietas platies or regular platies, or some of them are hybrids. There's some in here that are unique that I want to keep the unique ones, but if you'd be interested in a marigold varietas platy or a tuxedo platy, you're welcome to it. Or I want a pair of guppies and some shrimp. I want to try giving some shrimp away too. So there are going to be some conditions if you're interested. The first one person is going to get some fish for free. So condition 1 is, you're going to have to live in the United States, because I don't think I'll be able to ship anything internationally. Condition number 2, you're gonna have to trust me with your address. You're gonna have to give me an address so I can send them to you. I don't want to be exclusive, but there are these conditions, but it should be reasonable. So US, trust me with your address. And condition number 3 is you would have to have a YouTube channel, because I'd like you to do an unboxing when you receive the fish, and because I want to see how they turn out and what happens. And I'd like to see you do updates, because I want to see how the fish are doing. It's kind of like like Creature, my cat here. It's like when I got him, he was a rescue cat, and the people that, and same with my other cat Muchacho. I send videos and updates to the people that rescued them, because I want them to see how they're doing. I kind of like to see that with the fish. So even then, if you don't already have a YouTube channel, create one. I mean, just, if you're into the fish hobby and you're watching fish videos like this one, why not create one of your own? It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Just show a tank with your fish. And then if you have cats, show your cat too. So that's 3 conditions. And the 4th one is to see who can, because I can't give them to everyone. It's going to be one person that's going to get fish and shrimp for free if they want. To be the deciding person, the first one to name 3 references that I've done along the way. Movie references, TV show references, commercial references, anything like that. So remember, just now I said I was going to give away some fish for free. What's that from? If you can name that, that's one of 3 along the way. My previous video, I started out with an example like that. So there's 2 if you can name them. I mean, identifying them, but naming them, because I, dozens along the way. I've threw in little references like that. If you watch my videos on a regular basis, not very many, but not that many people do, but you may have picked up on some of them. So yeah, have a little, it's my way of amusing myself and having a little fun with it, but I sneak them in there sometimes. So yeah. All right, so you want some fish? You can have some platies from this tank, some guppies from this tank, or you can also have guppies from this tank if you're interested. I mean, these are wild guppies or common guppies, but they are, they're not fancy guppies, but they are cool in themselves. If you'd like a pair of these, I'd send you some, and some shrimp. Like these. Shrimp like these, Neocaridina shrimp, or cherry shrimp. Most of them are in here red. There's some blue ones. There's not that many blue ones. I think I'll keep the blue ones to myself, but they could have babies and you could end up with blue ones because they're all mixing up and, just mixing genes. And want some plants? Any plants that I have that you don't already have that are easy enough to propagate, like Java moss up top here, like Ricciafluitans, some Bacopa. I have enough. Like this is Java fern Wind 11 here. Let's go back to my other tank. All right, back to the 30-gallon, or some Anacharis, if it's legal to have Anacharis in your state, because some states it is illegal. So yeah, if you don't already have Java moss, Ricciafluitans, any of the plants that I mentioned, or even some, let's see if I can maneuver something here. Or even some duckweed, if you want some duckweed. You can have some duckweed. Or even if you don't want duckweed, you may get some duckweed, because you'd have to accept that risk that any plants coming from my tanks could have duckweed on them. I mean, if you didn't want it, I'd try to clean it off as much as I could, but you would have to accept that risk. All right, so how's